Joe Biden has refused to extend the deadline for evacuations in Afghanistan, and now news is breaking about terror threat warnings to the airport in Kabul. We are not done evacuating people, but countries like Denmark and Great Britain are closing down the remaining flights out of Afghanistan. Actually, we were led to believe that people would still be evacuated until the 31st of August, and that still wouldn't have been enough time to get everyone out of there. But now that the remaining flights are being cancelled, tens of thousands of people are going to be left behind in Afghanistan. So in a few days, when the military completely pulls out of Afghanistan, what do you think is going to happen to all of those people? Well, at best, they're going to turn into hostages, and that's the best case scenario. So these terror threats to the Kabul airport are coming in from all over the place, and they are so serious that they decided to shut down the remaining military flights out of the Kabul airport in Afghanistan. So this is pretty drastic. Remember that we're not just dealing with like a single terrorist holding an RPG and a rocket-propelled grenade trying to take down an airplane anymore. We're talking about terrorists with advanced weaponry, like drones with missiles, that the US Army left behind from the military bases when they left Afghanistan. So that's why people are taking this threat so seriously, right? So let's start out here with this BBC article that talks about this issue. Attack could strike Kabul airport within hours, minister warns. Now this next paragraph is very interesting, and it's got a lot of things that we need to talk about. So check this out. There could be an highly lethal terror attack at Kabul airport within hours, a minister has warned. Armed Forces Minister James Heappey said there were very credible reports of a severe threat in the capital. The Foreign Office last night issued new guidance telling anyone near the airport to move away to a safe location and await further advice. It comes amid a race to airlift thousands from Afghanistan before foreign troops depart. The US has set a deadline of the 31st of August for a withdrawal of its troops, with President Joe Biden rejecting calls from Prime Minister Boris Johnson and other allies for an extension. So this is a disaster all around. These terror threats are obviously very credible, and they are potentially highly lethal also because so many people are crammed into a small area. And these people outside of the airport, they're being told to move away to a safe location and await further advice, which I mean is silly, because you like, if you're outside of the airport, imagine what you have done to go through to get to the airport. That alone in and of itself, right? Now you're being told to move to a safe location. So it's silly because there probably isn't a safe location for you, which is probably why you're here in the first place. And so what's going to happen in a few days because these people outside of the airport are very vulnerable. What's going to happen to all of these people inside of the airport once all of these troops are beginning to leave, since the airplanes are now grounded, since most countries are no longer taking people out of the country? Then what's going to happen in a few days to all of these people that are trapped inside of the airport? They're probably going to have the same fate as all of the people outside of the airport, right? Remember that Joe Biden put this deadline on himself. This is a self-imposed deadline. And they just held this emergency G7 meeting where all of these nation leaders came together to the G7 meeting, and they all individually begged Joe Biden to extend the date for the deadline, right? To just give them a little more time to pull all of these people out of the airport. And it seems like it's what everyone wants except Joe Biden. I really don't get this. Like, all of the allies, Boris Johnson, Macron of France, Merkel of Germany, they all want extra time to just get a little bit more people out. Even Nancy Pelosi in the US, if you don't know, she's a leading Democrat and she supports Biden in almost everything. And she said that, I want to encourage the president to stay longer, but she trusts his judgment. It really is crazy. Like, we're going to leave all of these people behind. Right now, there's an estimate of those people being around 10,000 people. By the way, most of them being nationals from our countries. So the reason the rest of us are dependent on the US forces is, of course, that the US forces are responsible for the vast majority of troops on the ground at the Kabul airport. So it becomes a huge problem if all of the US forces withdraw. And let's say there were a few countries who would still remain and defend. There's a very high likelihood of them being overrun by terrorists before too long. So the mission will become almost impossible if the US forces withdraw, which they will, right? So that's why everyone are forced to follow the decisions of Joe Biden on this issue. Now, in spite of that, in spite of it being very dangerous, there are European leaders who are vowing to actually help out Afghanistan despite Biden's refusal to delay US pullout. So this is interesting, but they are not necessarily talking about a military help, right? And if it's not a military help, it's not going to mean a lot, right? So take a look at this. They had appealed for US forces to be kept on at Kabul airport for longer, despite the Taliban's insistence that evacuation flights must end by August 31st. Bereft of US support, Washington's allies pledged to continue trying to get people out and help Afghans who are left behind, but they had already admitted it will be impossible to complete the process in time. We have statements from all of the G7 nation leaders as well in this article, but I won't go into each and every one of them because they pretty much say the same thing. But I do want to point out what Boris Johnson is saying right here. We will go on right up until the last moment we can, but you've heard what the President of the United States has had to say. You've heard what the Taliban has said as well. A spokesperson for France's President Macron also said that it's in the hands of the Americans. And the German Chancellor Angela Merkel says that it's the leadership of the United States, but without the United States of America, for example, we, the rest of the world, the other countries, cannot continue the evacuation mission. So you kind of get the point here, right? All of the European leaders are committed to trying to help out the best way they can. But it won't be militarily, at least not. I think maybe a few VIPs will be able to, through special forces, be pulled out. But the rest of it is just going to be words. So that's just great. Like in a couple of days, all of the troops are going to be gone and the people are going to be left behind. And we are going to have to deal with probably the biggest hostage crisis in modern history. Also, this whole idea of not negotiating with terrorists is going to go completely out of the window. Our governments are going to try to negotiate to get all of these hostages free of the hands of the Taliban. But they won't get anywhere near all of them. And I doubt they'll even get a good portion, right? So you wonder about these people left behind. The reports coming out of how the Taliban treats people are absolutely horrendous, especially women, whether you're single or you're in a family, whether you're married or you're even like above 12 years old, it doesn't really matter. All women are pretty much, according to the reports, treated horrendously. And Christians, obviously, as well. Christians are going to be hunted in Afghanistan. So this is a complete disaster all around. I'm frustrated because this deadline was a self-imposed deadline. It came right after the CIA secretly met with the leaders of the Taliban. And now we have to keep this deadline because of the fear of the Taliban. I think right now the number of people being left behind is anywhere between 10 and 20,000 people. So it's a really big amount. Great Britain alone is saying that they have 2,000 people that are not even British citizens that have been working with the British government in Afghanistan that they need to pull out. On top of that, they have another 1,000 people that they consider their nationals. So that's 3,000 people just from Great Britain alone. That's one country. So I think the number can easily reach 10 and probably even 20,000 people. So that's where we are. The flights are grounded. The military is already leaving and will be fully gone in just a matter of like 5-6 days, I think. And at that point, I don't think you should expect any kind of good coverage on this issue that much anymore, because at that point, the Taliban will have taken completely over. And I doubt that the Taliban will be in favor of a completely free and fair press. Thanks for watching this update, guys, and my thoughts on this issue. You know what to do. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Have a great day, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.